September 11, 2001. Al-Qaeda terrorists aboard 3 hijacked passenger planes. The attacks took place in New York City, Washington, D.C., and a failed attack in a remote field within Pennsylvania. The attacks aimed the World Trade Center in New York City and the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. 9/11 was not the first terrorist attack on the World Trade Center. A bombing in February 1963 killed 6 people. The most memorable of the attacks was the Twin Towers that stood along the skyline of New York. The buildings at the time made New York easier to recognize and separate from other cities alike. On any given workday, up to 50,000 employees worked in the World Trade Center Twin Towers, and an additional 40,000 passed through the complex. Planes were all en route to California, and therefore stuffed with fuel, and their departures were set apart within an hour and 40 minutes. The first American Airlines Flight 11, exiting Boston for Los Angeles, crashed into the North Tower at 8:48 a.m. 18 minutes later, United Airlines Flight 175 was heading from Boston to LA, which was the plane that collided into the South Tower. Then an American Airlines Flight 77 left Washington Dulles International Airport, which was guaranteed for LA, but instead hit the western part of the Pentagon, the military headquarters where 24,000 people work, which was at 9:40 a.m. To end with, United Airlines Flight 93, flying from Newark to San Francisco, crashed near Pittsburgh. Passengers aboard United Flight 93 heard about the previous airplane attacks and attempted to retake control of the plane from hijackers. This raises the possibility that its hijackers had failed in whatever their mission was. Interestingly, Barbara Olson, a television commentator who was traveling on American Flight 77, managed to reach her husband, Solicitor General Theodore Olson, by cell phone and to tell him that the hijackers were armed with knives and a box cutter. To sum it up, 266 people perished in the 4 planes. Firefighters, police officers, and other rescue workers who responded to the initial disaster in Lower Manhattan were killed or injured when the buildings collapsed. Confusingly, in 2001, New York City's fire evacuation procedures only required mandatory evacuations for floors immediately surrounding a fire. After a plane struck Building 1 of the World Trade Center, Building 2 employees were initially told to stay in the building. After the September 11th attacks on the World Trade Center, the rescue and recovery cleanup of the 1.8 million tons of wreckage from the World Trade Center site took 9 months. The attack on the World Trade Center of 9/11 resulted in the largest loss of life by a foreign attack on American soil. Approximately 3,000 people were killed at ground level. Only 18 people were rescued alive from the rubble of the World Trade Center site. The day vividly wedged itself into my mom's memory as unforgettable. At the time, she was only 34 and getting ready to take my sister Lindsay to the doctors because she was sick. Afterwards, she would head to work, which was American Airlines Philadelphia Airport. She dropped off Lindsay with my dad at home and she began her way to Philly for work. She was alerted by the attack by a phone call from her work, notifying her a plane had thought to be an American Eagle flight crashed into the North Tower. But then when she turned the TV at operations, she found out it was her own company, American Airlines. Many have never seen a plane crash into a building before, so it shocked the nation when they viewed it on live TV. Almost in tears, the gaudiest recollection of that day was the attack on the second tower. She entered work the next day. It was as if the whole nation silenced. There was no plane in the sky. The airport was very docile, and the sky was quiet above any American airport around the world. Being an employee there for almost 10 years, she had developed friendships, and a few of her close colleagues stood as crew members aboard some of the hijacked planes. After this disastrous event, she believes the government needs to take more threats much more seriously because according to some documents, they had listed what was going to happen and government didn't take it serious. They jeopardized 3,000 people for something they thought was a joke. After seeing several planes hijacked in one day, is America's security at airports safe enough to protect innocent people? Because my mom is a member of the airline, she believes yes, but truly the security isn't to the best of its ability. In response to these terrorist attacks, George Bush enacted the Department of Homeland Security, which is the third largest branch in government. The president also signed the U.S. Patriot Act, which allows the government to make further decisions if needed in order to protect Americans against terrorist attacks. After 9/11, the USA decided to declare war on Iraq. As a result, there was Operation Iraqi Freedom, where the U.S. troops were sent to look for weapons of mass destruction. There was a conflict whether or not it was justifiable for the U.S. to attack Iraq. The Department of Homeland Security enacted so many new policies in order to protect the United States from the attack of terrorism. The new security measures were needed when entering an airport, and racial profiling is also an issue in airports. Their motto claims to be, "If you see something, say something." For security purposes, referenced from my mom and others' beliefs from sources, government should be able to listen to phone calls or read private emails in order to fight terrorism, because they could stop a lot of things from happening beforehand. It is believed that the nation is not safer today as a result of the changes that took place, since the terrorists don't care if they blow themselves up. They want to make a point, statement, or effect. For example, Brussels. We try to make it safer, but no one these days are safe. Life is unexpected. My mom lives every day at her work, American Airlines, as her last, after seeing what people of any ethnicity can do. America is now more cautious to their surroundings and the foreign nations. Is it possible a tragedy similar to 9/11 could happen again? Definitely. However, more recent attacks similar to 9/11, such as Brussels, bombing in Paris, and others, haven't reached the magnitude of what 9/11 has, including casualties. On everyday news, we see terrorist attacks happen all over the United States, such as bombings, shootings, etc., and they still remind us of 9/11 because innocent people are dying for simple, stupid reasons that are unexplainable. We will remember 9/11.